What's up everyone, and welcome back to another What If video. In the previous part, we saw the Android saga go much differently than it did originally. 17 and 18 got beat pretty badly by Goten, the fusion of Gohan and Goten, and 16 ended up self-destructing, which ended up not doing anything. Following this, the androids went into hiding, all while Cell appeared like normal. Thanks to some help from Gohan and Goten, Tien and Yamcha were able to learn the fusion dance, and fuse into Tiencha, who teamed up with Piccolo in order to defeat Cell. And because of this team up and the fact that they learned fusion, they were able to defeat Cell before he even became a threat. All seems good now, but the androids are still somewhere lurking about. With that recap out of the way, let's get into this new part. The appearance and defeat of Cell was unexpected and pretty much came out of nowhere, but the group is glad that it didn't go too badly. Trunks especially benefits from this because he now knows that Cell will probably appear in his timeline too, though he doesn't know how, but assumes it involves something with his time machine. This also gets Trunks to realize, while this timeline is doing well right now, he has no real method for saving his timeline yet. So far, only fusions have been useful against the androids, but Trunks has no use for it at the moment because he hasn't learned it yet, and he has no one to fuse with. However, Bulma might have a solution. After raiding Jiro's lab and finding all his plans for the androids, and how each of the two androids had the bomb in them, they're starting to get an idea. Assuming this remains true in the future timeline, Bulma suggests that Trunks uses a self-destruct button to kill the androids in his timeline. This same method of self-destruction could be used in this timeline, should the group decide to actually kill them using that method. While the group is very unsure and hesitant about using it in this timeline, given that the androids can still be redeemed here and seem different from Trunks' androids, Trunks takes up Bulma on this offer and has her make a remote as well as a copy of the android's blueprints in case future Bulma needs it. This was pretty simple. Trunks can just go back to his timeline and use the button to defeat the androids, and they'll be gone for good. As for Cell, he should be fine. He plans to hunt down Jiro's lab and find Cell before he's even born, so he doesn't even become a threat in the future. And if Cell's already awoken and it's too late, it's not really that big of a deal either, because he won't be nearly strong enough at that point to face Trunks. He probably wouldn't be alive long enough to get anywhere close to where his imperfect form was. He might even still be in that larval stage that he had to revert to use the time machine. Trunks is content, but the Z-Fighters still have another problem, that being the androids of this timeline. Well, the easy option here would be to blow them up, but there's a bit of protest here. While the androids in Trunks' timeline definitely deserve it, there's a moral question here about whether or not the androids here do as well. They haven't really done anything yet except fight the Z-Fighters, and then they just started hiding out. Trunks even saw that they weren't like the 17 and 18 from his timeline. Gohan and Goten give some pushback and say that they don't necessarily feel it's right either, considering that they're still humans and just have been corrupted by Jiro. Otherwise, they would have just killed the androids right away. Krillin also gives some pushback, feeling pretty much the same way he did in the original story. Goku's proud to see his sons think like this, and considering it's something that he would say as well, he agrees with his sons and Krillin. Vegeta is really the only one who doesn't agree, but he'd rather fight them himself rather than using the remote. With everyone else giving their opinion, it's ultimately decided that they won't blow up the androids, and will instead track them down and try to compromise. Maybe if they tell the androids about all the stuff Jiro did to them, with the bombs and all and how they could reverse it, maybe the androids will take it as a sign of peace. Who knows? If they do have to fight the androids, however, they're ready for that. If the androids don't want to accept peace, then so be it. They'll have to take them out with force. Thanks to some work by Bulma with her use of the blueprints, they're able to find a way to track down the androids, and the Z-Fighters use it to hunt them down. And the androids aren't actually too far. They're able to find the general location of the two androids, and the Z-Fighters are surprised to see that the androids are actually pretty close to where they were just a moment ago. They end up confronting the androids and extend an olive branch for them asking to surrender, and they find out what's been going on. The androids have been observing everyone fighting. They originally did it to find out who that fighter was that got 16 killed, but eventually they were able to find out about Cell, and saw that the fighter was actually made with fusion. They kept their distance after finding out what Cell was here to do, and they don't know that he's dead yet. While they want to learn fusion themselves, they weren't able to actually find out how to do it correctly since they got scared off by Cell's presence, but their surveillance still gives them an advantage. They know the trick behind it, and how to stop it from happening. The Z-Fighters are a little stronger now, but they have Gohan and Goten to go face the androids first because they're the strongest right now. Well, at least when they're fused, that is. Goten is definitely the best option at the moment. Knowing how fusion requires them to be together, this is where the android's surveillance comes in handy. They're able to split Gohan and Goten up before they can even fuse, and begin fighting them one-on-one. This causes the rest of the group to split up as well and fight the androids. The androids brutally attack the group, with each subgroup barely being able to hold the individual androids off. The two of them are set on attacking Goku right now. However, the tide turns because of a mistake the androids made. They got cocky after splitting Gohan and Goten up, but since their surveillance on the group ended early, they didn't know that 2 other people knew fusion. During the fight, Tien and Yamcha departed briefly, and when the androids see what they're doing, it's too late. Tiencha is back in the battle, and he actually saves the day here. He was strong enough to defeat Cell, so taking on the androids here is no problem for him. This also gives Gohan and Goten the opportunity to fuse as well, and now the androids are really out of luck. They're defeated again this time against 2 fusions, with no escape. But the Z-Fighters don't end up killing them. The 2 androids ask why the Z-Fighters don't just kill them now, and that's when they explain. Goku actually steps in and is the one to tell them why. He tells them what everyone found out about Jiro, and how he basically brainwashed them into being how they are, and even put bombs in them. They weren't willingly evil, at least not entirely, so the group doesn't want to really hold them wholly responsible for it. The group saw the human side to the androids, and thought that maybe it didn't have to be this way. They wouldn't feel right killing them, and would rather help. Not wanting to accept the help, but realizing that Goku is right about everything, the androids just get up and attempt to leave, and no one stops them. The androids know that they'll never be able to defeat this group, and are starting to consider what Goku just said to them and reconsidering their actions. Goku was right. It's not too late for them to change, and they might not want to be good like that, but they also don't want to be slaves to Jiro even after he's dead. They want to be their own people. And besides, if they do end up winning somehow, the group knows about the bombs in them and could possibly set them off as a last resort to kill the androids. While they're still antagonists, the androids silently gave up and realized that it's pointless to fight, as well as them realizing that they don't want to be what Jiro forced them to be. This is the first step to them actually reforming as people, but it'll be a long process and a long time before they're actually fully good like they are towards the end of Z, and they're still bad right now. But they've seized their actions and gave up on their goal of killing everyone for the moment, and decided to take a different approach at life. They're still young, and they have a lot of time ahead of them, so why don't they just live as humans like they once did before? The group is content that it turned out like this, and that ends the Android saga in this timeline. Trunks thanks everyone and heads back to his time. While he got a bit stronger, he ends up seeking the safer option of using the remotes to kill the androids in his timeline. After returning, he gives the blueprints to Bulma, and she makes adjustments to the remote to make sure it works in this timeline in case there's any inconsistencies with the build of the androids. And it ends up working. Trunks encounters the 2 of them again, but it's a really short encounter. He defeats them with the press of a button, literally, without hesitation either. He ends up hunting down Jiro's lab next, and sees that Cell is broken out and has been born, although it's very recently. With everything that he found at the lab, and by searching the immediate area, he's able to actually find where Cell is, although he's only in his larval form and hasn't evolved to his imperfect form yet, since he was only born just recently. Trunks kills him with no issues whatsoever, and that's pretty much it for this timeline. The androids are gone, and everything begins to be rebuilt, and Trunks has the happy ending that he wanted. Back in the main timeline, everything goes pretty well too. While they don't need the Dragon Balls, Piccolo ultimately decided against fusing with Kami here, in case they do need them in the future. In the last part, I mentioned that he considered it, but went against it because it would mean no Dragon Balls. Given that no one here has been to Namek yet and they don't know for sure if Namek has its own set, they decided for now to not fuse in order to keep the Dragon Balls around. Besides, they don't actually need the power right now, since the androids are gone. Everyone at this point is actually weaker than normal, except for the humans who pretty much got the same training. Piccolo never fused with Kami and got stronger, Vegeta and Goku never used the time chamber, and by extension, Goten and Gohan never used it either, same with Trunks, so they haven't mastered Super Saiyan yet. But realizing that there's something beyond Super Saiyan, over the next 7 years, Goku and Vegeta train together to access it. As I stated earlier in the series, Vegeta is already at a point where he's essentially like how he was in the late Buu Saga or in Dragon Ball Super, and he's completely good now, and is Goku's rival. The 2 get along now and consistently train together, usually in the gravity chamber. They end up accessing Mastered Super Saiyan, and after some more training, they're aware of Super Saiyan 2's existence, but they don't know how to utilize it to its full potential at will yet. As for Gohan and Goten, they grow up during this time frame, but haven't been training too consistently. Chi-Chi encourages them to pursue a school life, and they do train from time to time, but not nearly as much as before. They still end up mastering Super Saiyan, and they're actually pretty even with Goku and Vegeta in terms of power. But like I said, due to them going to school now, they end up slacking off a bit. The twins also begin to form their own identities and become a little more unique. Gohan is pretty much like how he was at the beginning of the Buu Saga, while Goten's personality is a lot like how he was in the end of Z and GT, where he's more outgoing and not as school-focused as Gohan, but the 2 are still very close obviously. During their school life, the 2 of them end up encountering crime from time to time in the city, and they fight together as the quote-unquote Golden Warriors. It's pretty fun to basically be superheroes, but eventually, a girl in their class, Videl, tries to find out the identities of these two heroes. Goten is spooked by this and bails out of being a hero, no longer wanting to do that stuff and be caught. But Gohan gets an idea for himself where he can keep doing it without worrying about Videl catching him, at least for now. And thus, Gohan gets Bulma to make him a costume and the Great Saiyaman is born. Gohan asks Goten to join him as the Great Saiyaman too, but Goten declines because he thinks the costume looks goofy and he doesn't really want to run around in a costume all day. Ah well, more spotlight for Gohan to be a hero then. The two of them continue their school lives as normal, both being in the same class and having the same friend group. However, Videl is getting closer and closer to finding out the identity of the Great Saiyaman, and Goten tries to help his brother out, but he can't really do that much. He knew it was a bad idea, and he's glad that he didn't get roped into it. But we'll cover the rest of the Saiyaman saga next time, and the Buu saga after that. This is where we'll end this part for now. Given the events of this part, what will the androids end up doing in the future? What will happen with Gohan and Goten during this time in the Saiyaman saga? What will happen in the Buu saga afterwards? Make sure to leave a comment about your suggestions for the next part and what you thought about this part. As always, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, as well as hitting the bell icon to get notified about any future videos I make, including future parts of this What If. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.